She does well.
Keeping it off till you get through ranting and raving.
I know. When I get ranting and raving, everybody out there, nobody out in Facebook land knows why in the world I've been ranting and raving about. We do thank Jackie for doing this, and if you're watching tonight, y'all give Jackie a shout out. She takes care of the Facebook and all this. And everybody in that denomination knows Jackie, because when I go to these meetings, oh yeah, we love Jackie. They don't like me, but they love Jackie. She's so nice. I was like, yeah, I got to be somebody nice here.
Somebody to balance you out.
Yeah, no, that's right. That's what I tell them. I say, she's a nice person. And then she cares if you like her. So I was like, I don't really care. No, I do care. Not if you like me, but I do care. There's love there. I don't live my life for people liking. So that is a problem you run into in every aspect of life, especially in the pastorate. And it's one of those things, all of us want to be liked. And especially in the ministry, you want to be liked, but we're not all the time, believe it or not. They're just things that we don't hit a home run every day. And there are days that we are cranky. There are days that we don't do things right, but that's just the humanity side of us. But I'll be honest with you, there's not many days y'all do it right either. So, and that's why we got job security, and because we ain't right and y'all ain't right, and so we're all together ain't right. But that's a part of being in the ministry, being real, and being part of it. We're in Proverbs, and we're in Proverbs in the 10th chapter. We went through the wisdom part of 8. I don't know if we went through 9. I think we did. But then, and I wanted to start in 10 tonight. I don't know if I'll go through all Proverbs 31, but all the way through here. But I'm going to trek on through here on the 10th chapter. There's a lot in here. There's a lot that he starts doing the things, if this, then this, if this, then this. It's going back and forth on it. Whereas we saw just kind of a straight line talking about wisdom and adulteress and being away from all these things. But now he's going to give you the flip back and forth, the Proverbs of Solomon. And as we do that, you can see, truthful lips, lying lips, you go back and forth. There's going to be several times in here when you'll read something throughout really the next chapters. In fact, in this Bible I have here, which is my NIV version, everybody's liking the, what is it, the contemporary English? Is that what it is? It's the English version? ESV? ESV. A lot of people are going to the ESV these days. And NIV was having some struggles with their inclusive language stuff, and not the older NIV, but the newer ones, they were kind of leaning into that. But you look at the, in Proverbs, and as you go through this, and I've got in here, because I went through here one time, and it was something I was doing, I forget what it was, and I put a T by anything that dealt with speech or tongue. And so it's loaded up with T's in these next few chapters. A lot of things about our speech and our tongue, because it's important of what we say, what we do. I was saying before we came online that this Oliver Anthony guy that's singing this song that's resonating all through the United States. He is writing of songs. There's a lot of cussing in his songs, and it's and I hate to say it this way, but it gets to where, I remember when I was in seminary, we had professors that used to like to use profanity when they were teaching us. And they would use profanity for their emphasis, and they would just speak in class in profane ways. And I remember talking to one of them. I said, look, I'm a construction worker. You're not impressing me. I said, you probably won't tell me a thing I haven't heard. And I said, you think it's emphasis? I'm saying, clean it up. I said, I know I'm nobody. I'm just a young punk. But I said, I'm from a son of a construction worker. My dad never cussed. And so you standing up here and being a minister of the gospel, talking in here in our theology terms, and you want to use cuss words for emphasis in here. And I said, that ain't doing nothing for me. And I said, in fact, I think you're violating Scripture, but that's just me. And I'm like, and the guy looked at me kind of funny, but I was like, don't matter to me. Again, being liked is not what we want. We got to be truthful, and a lot of times, and you're not liked if you're truthful. Not obnoxiously truthful. I try not to be that. I am that at times. I will admit that. But I try not to be that all the time. I actually keep my mouth shut more these days than I ever have. I do. I'll just sit and shake my head because I'm like, I don't know. It does. When I have that contorted face, that silence does speak, doesn't it? No, I mean, I don't say everything that's going on inside here, because sometimes I'm like, boy, that is not going to be good. That's good. Believe it or not, I don't believe that, Kim, but you know, I'll just trust you on that one. Kim and I get along fine. Kind of look at each other going, Anyway, starting in Proverbs 10:1, I've got the Amplified version here too. I've got the NIV and Amplified. I'm going to read some out of the Amplified just because it amplifies it. It uses a lot of words to say the same thing, but it also gives some clarity in just the way it is written. So in Proverbs 10:1, in the Amplified, it says, Proverbs Solomon, a wise son makes a glad father, but a foolish and self-confident, that can be a prideful son, is the grief of his mother. That is a very true statement. You know, whenever a son's doing well, what is the dad doing? Pump the chest, baby. That's my boy. That's my boy. But when he's bad, you won't even know he's got a son. So there are things that, and the mom, I mean, she's laying all over it in grief. I mean, she does. But when our sons are good, man, look at that, baby. When they're not good, it's like, whose child are you? That is a true statement in a lot of ways. Now, for daughters, I don't know how that works. So it does work the same? Okay. Treasures of wickedness profit nothing. And this is where they use this many times. But the righteous, the moral and spiritually rectitude in every area and relationships deliver from death.
You know, they put a lot more words in it, but to me it's simpler in the NIV.
It is simpler, but it does give you, and there's some words I'm going to use here a little bit later, and you'll see. But the ill-gotten treasures of no value, but the righteousness delivers from death. That is true. It does say the same thing, but the Amplified does bring in some perspectives, and it does start looking at some of the words, and that I do believe that the wickedness and the part of the profit of the wickedness, and we were watching something night before we started watching it. It's about Prince Andrew and the Epstein bunch and that island. Started watching that a little bit. And after a while, you go, these people are all idiots, and because they want to hang out with the corruptibility. I did find out that this one guy bought the Epstein Island for about half of what the cost was after his death, but he's going to turn it into some kind of resort. I'm like, man, I wouldn't. They'd have to scrub that place down with I don't know what before I'd ever want to go down there. Exercise it, scrub it down, and they even said there's some demons that are in that place, and I wouldn't want anything to do with it. I don't care how pretty it is. But you look at it and you see the ill-gotten treasures, because one of the things they said in that documentary was that nobody could tell you how he made his money. He talks about being a trader or being something in stocks and everything. Nobody could just say, this is how he has made his money. Well, he made his money because he was into all the stuff that he was into with politicians flying on the plane to go down there and do what they did on that island. That was ugly. Ill-gotten gain is what it is. The wickedness, they profit nothing. You got all that as far as the ill-gotten treasures are of no value. What we're seeing right now, and I hate to say that, I don't know how in the world, and I really, what I would love to do is get some of these politicians to take care of what little bit of money I have in savings, because they seem to be able to triple and quadruple their money. They only make, $400,000 a year or whatever it is. And then they come out and they're $15 trillion millionaires. And I'm going, how in the world does that happen? They've got some great, it's like, and I'll go ahead and name names because I've read the stories about Nancy Pelosi's husband, who does really well in stock market and day trading and stuff. He does a great job in that. He just happens to know what you need to buy and sell. That's why he makes so much money. He guesses right. No, he doesn't. Yeah, Hunter Biden and his stuff. Whoo, come on now. The Lord does not let the righteous go hungry, but thwarts the craving of the wicked. You know, it is funny because in sin, and everybody, I don't know if y'all have talked with people that have gotten really deep into sin, whether it's sexual sin, whether it's just sin, period. After a while, and let me just use my little Debbie's. After a while, you get tired of Little Debbie's. You know, you do. I mean, you can only eat so many of them. And sometimes you'll take a craving and you'll eat it. You know, Jesse can tell you, I don't eat as much as I used to. I mean, there's some nutty twins in there. It's been in there since it's been 2 weeks. I've eaten one of them. I've eaten one. I did eat one. And but the nutty bar, which are really good. But after a while, even those things that we think will satisfy us does not satisfy. The only thing that's going to really satisfy is God. And I would tell you this, when you have cravings, and let's just say for anything, check up. You know, make sure it's not a craving that's a spiritual craving that's manifesting itself in the natural. Because sometimes we have spiritual cravings. If your soul is starving, you'll want to go eat. That's why fasting is good for us, because it makes us readjust. I know it has nothing to do with this scripture, but I'm just telling you, he thwarts the craving of the wicked. In other words, they're not satisfied. One person that wrote about hell, I believe there is a hell, okay? There's some preachers don't believe in hell anymore. There is a hell. The Bible talks about it. It's not created for us. There are people that are going to follow Satan right into hell because they have chosen against God. One of those chambers of hell is you'll never get satisfaction of what you got here on this earth. That's one of the hell chambers, is what somebody saw once when they descended to hell and see it, was that they were doing the things here on earth that brought great satisfaction. I think about Hugh Hefner. I do. I feel sorry for him. He was a dirty old man, every time you look at him, in his little smoker's jacket. And the only thing he would deceive the 20 and 30-year-old girls to be his wife until they got tired of him, until they got old, and then he'd get somebody else. But he was just a dirty old man when you would see him. He probably didn't have a conversion. So everything that he built in this life, you know, and if he didn't have a conversion to Christ, maybe he did. If he did not, he is in hell, and all the cravings that satisfied him now, he will never be satisfied. That's going to be part of the torture, I think, is that you'll never be satisfied. Darkness, gnashing of teeth, the fear and the level of fear that is going to be felt in hell, you have not even ever sensed this on this earth. No matter how bad I scare Sherilyn and go, boo! No matter, I scared Elizabeth the other night and Cass, they're in there pulling chicken. Hey! You know, no matter how bad that is, there's nothing compared to the fear that's going to be felt in hell. I say that because all of the cravings that you see of the wicked, he's going to thwart the cravings of the wicked. Is it in this life? Yeah, I mean, we do. There's a point that you get to, you get saturated with the evil, and it doesn't satisfy you anymore. It really does. That's why the notching up of, let's say, a Ted Bundy, you know, you see him as a serial killer. He's not satisfied with 1 or 2 or 3. He's not satisfied. And it doesn't fulfill his craving. Then he goes on here in verse 4, it says, lazy hands make a man poor, but diligent hands bring wealth. I'm thinking about this, my sons who call me a shark. I'm always moving. You know, I got to move. And I don't think workaholic is what they mean here, but diligent hands bring wealth. We have the struggle in today's society, and a part of that Oliver Anthony song, he makes a statement of large people on social benefits in that song, while the other people are working hard. I do get frustrated with that. I grew up in a family of construction. If anything you had, you worked for. And if you didn't have, it's your own fault, just about. That's the way it was. Never knew going to the government was an option, ever, in our lives. I never knew that. My dad, we had some lean times during the 70s when there was a construction crash, everything crashed down. We started building decks. We were sheetrock men, started building decks. I remember going to one house and Daddy said, we're going to put some crown molding. I said, Dad, I never put crown molding up. And so he turned upside down on this particular miter saw, turned upside down and backwards, and we'll just cut it in, no big deal. I said, you know, how do you know how to do this? He said, well, you're going to by the end of the day. I said, okay. But you did what you had to do. You had to have diligent hands. I mean, it was just lacking of work. And somebody asked you, hey, can you go do this? Yeah, we can do it. So we did. So lazy hands make a man poor. I believe that. I've seen some people that are just, they will not work. You know, we had that one guy that was here for a little while, and if he watches, I told him before he left he was crazy. But he stayed here a little while, and I told him, I let him stay here, and I said, we're going to work around here. I said, I'll let you stay a few days, and he got to where he was wanting to homestead the place, so we had to move him on. But I let him do work around here. I said, because you're not going to stay for free. We had another guy one time, he was passing through, and I didn't know how bad he was, but he had about 14 pets in his car. This has been many years ago. We were still across the street. Nobody would let him come and stay at a hotel. And so I said, all right, you don't bring the dogs and cats in, but you can come in here. I'll let you stay a day. Because he was an educated man. I mean, he had degrees and all kind of stuff. And I said, because we've got a freezer back there, and we had some food in there. I said, you can eat that right there. You can stay a day or two. He ate us dry in there, I think. He ate everything out of there. And after about a day or two, I said, look, I'm going to put you up down here at down one time, they had Oak Mountain. They had a lodge down the cabins down there at that RV park. And I said, I'll put you up down there. I gave him about a week down there, and after he left there, I went down there and checked with the folks, and I said, don't ever bring him back here again. We had to get a shovel and dig out all the garbage that he would go in there and eat pizzas and just leave it. And he said we had to get a shovel and just dig out all the stuff. His car was like that because he had about 14 animals. He didn't want to leave his animals. And so I said, we'll put you up down there for about a week. And after the week was up, he had to go find somewhere else to stay. But he said, I mean, those people, they were just, he was nasty. That boy was just lazy. I'm sorry to say that, but he was. And usually you can find out whether somebody is lazy or diligent, because you can offer them this, say, look, I can give you this, but you're going to work some for it. And they'll look at you like you're crazy. And I'm going, the Bible says you don't work, you don't eat. So if you're hungry, and the man's hungry enough, he'll work. Or a woman. Women are easier. They'll work. They want to work. Men, I don't know what it is about us. Not all of us, but some. Y'all in here are not that, but I'm just talking about the people down the street. He who gathers crops in the summer is a wise son, but he who sleeps during the harvest is a disgraceful son. Now, we don't farm. Anybody farmed in here? You have? Well, there's times you got to do things. You can't rest. I mean, you just can't. When it is a season, you got to get it. We used to have in that Mason Hall church up there in Tennessee where I pastored, and that was the one where I told you I went out there twice a month to preach. And they had Sunday school every week. And I offered them, I said, I'll come out every week. Won't charge you anymore. We'll have church every Sunday. And they said, no, we're good. I thought I was better than that. You know what I mean? I mean, I took it as a slam. Like, no, they didn't want 4 Sundays. And I was like, okay. But in that community, it was a farming community, and they were so strict about working on Sunday. They would not work on Sunday. But they had these, at 12:01 on Sunday night, when it was harvest, they had these airplane lights they had on this. It was like UFO landing. They had airplane lights they had on these tractors, and they get out there harvesting. But at 12:01, not before then, on Sunday night, because they wouldn't work on Sunday. I honored them for that. That's pretty good. I thought it was good. But when it's time to gather the crops, you got to gather the crops. That's what they did. And that's just part of it. I worked on a farm one time up in Kentucky. They just let me drive the water tractor. I pulled the water wagon around. I don't even know why I pulled that around. Maybe just give me something to do, but it was fun. But I got in the combine with the guy, and he let me see how it all worked. That was a lot of fun to see. But it was hard work. I saw him working, and it was just hard work, just watching him do it. Anyway. Blessing crowns the head of the righteous, but violence overwhelms the mouth of the wicked. I'm going to shift over here real quick to this one. It said, blessings are upon the head, and here it says, the uncompromisingly righteous, the upright, the right standing with God. But the mouth of the wicked conceals violence. I don't know what that You look at the both of those and you're seeing it overwhelms the mouth of the wicked. Then in my small, the mouth of the wicked conceals violence in the bottom. Never know. The mouth of the wicked conceals, because the wickedness is in your heart. Your mouth conceals what's there. Jesus says, not what goes in a man, it's what comes out. Because it's just, that's part of it. So the mouth of the wicked overwhelms, the violence overwhelms the mouth of the wicked. The memory of the righteous will be a blessing, but the name of the wicked will rot. When I say Epstein, it's going to rot. Because he was a wicked, fallen soul. Hugh Hefner. I don't look at him. I know all you older guys, myself, everybody grew up with the Playboy industry and all that stuff. But Hugh, when you think about him, you're going, the destruction he did in his lifetime, it's going to rot. I mean, nobody does a great documentary and goes, because now they're all coming out saying he wasn't that good a guy. When he was alive, he was a great guy because everybody liked him. But now he's dead. Everybody's coming out saying, no, he wasn't that good. And what went on at the Playboy Mansion was not that good. So everybody, we start looking at the memory of the righteous will be a blessing. When you think of the D.L. Moody's, we don't hear much about them anymore, but they were preachers of the past. You see and when let's just use Billy Graham. We all know Billy Graham. Good memories of that one. There was never any wickedness about Billy Graham, and never a bad story. I mean, they looked for it too. Never a bad story. Mother Teresa, memory there. Even Princess Diana, we all like Princess Diana. She was she had her problems, but she tried to do good, and she was different than the rest of the royal family. It says, the wise in heart accepts commands, but a chattering fool comes to ruin. They use the word over here. He says, let me change pages here. And he uses this word. He says, the wise in heart will accept and obey commands, but the foolish of lips will fall headlong. Pride goeth before fall, and the Holy Spirit will fall headlong. I mean, there's going to be a problem if you have that chattering fool. You're going to fall with your words. Every word that we have, the Bible tells us in New Testament, we're going to give an account. Isn't that going to be tough?
It is for me.
I don't think they got them all recorded, Debbie. You don't have to worry. All your words. I mean, there's a scribe in heaven going, oh my, Debbie's talking again. Did you get that? I got distracted by our hands. I can't imagine. That would be the worst job in heaven, to be your scribe. Wait, somebody rewind that. I didn't get that. Somebody slow her down. Anyway. Yeah. We won't hold her accountable because we didn't get all of it. We skipped a little bit. Anyway. Yeah, 6:30 in the morning, she's happening. Even the angels don't get up with her. I find that it is true that you find that your words can be your downfall. I don't know how many times you try to rope in a word or two. I mean, by the time, and usually it's my foolish words that I just want to stay off the cuff, and things I'm going, I wish I hadn't said that. It's just like, you just kind of go, So, but yeah, it is that. It can bring you to ruin, but a wise heart accepts commands. In other words, we obey the commands, but I think a wise heart is that person who can yield himself to the Holy Spirit. That's obeying the commands. I have to watch it because even in the chaplain's world, I have to hold to my chaplaincy, my ministerial role. Guys, they get more comfortable around you. They still apologize when they let them fly, but at the same time, you got to hold to who you are. And it's kind of like in my construction world. They still apologize when they let them fly, which I know. I don't tell them don't worry about it because that still shows the distinction. It's kind of like in the construction world when they stopped apologizing. It's not that you become one; it's that the distinction's not there anymore. And so there is something to it, especially if they know you're a minister. So I've had them, especially in the cop world, that they will they do speak normal around me, and I don't react or anything else. You know, we've had one time in our chaplains, it was they were giving an illustration of how this one chaplain in particular, not ours, not a part of our organization, they were giving an illustration and said they were amongst some cops and they wanted to stop the cops and correct their language. They said, you'll kill a chaplain's program. You just got to accept it till you get accepted, and then you can speak to things as it goes. And they will clean up around you most of the time. So you find that, and it's fascinating because that chattering fool, it does come to ruin. The man of integrity walks securely, but he who takes the crooked paths will be found out. Think of every politician you've ever known. You know, the man of integrity, and there we've had some men and women of integrity. I'm praying for our newest, I was listening to her speak the other day. What's her name? Our newest senator? Kay Britt. I was praying for her the other day because she was talking about the abortion issue, and that she was, and it's good that she as a woman can speak to that issue, and she was holding firm, and she was standing with Tuberville on the abortion issue and the appointments of all the military, because you know Biden has politicized, and they're blaming them for politicizing. It's like, no, he's doing an end around, and that's all Tommy Tuberville is trying to break the point. And you might not like Tommy Tuberville because he coached at Auburn, but he's holding to what he said he's going to hold to. And I appreciate that. I might not agree with him, but if you tell me what you're going to do, you do it. I might not like what you do, so I'm going, okay. You know, I'll hold to you. And I like him for that reason. And then Katie Britt, I think she's got a pretty good political future ahead of her if she holds to the integrity and she'll walk securely. But if you walk crooked, you're going to be found out. That's just a part of it, either in this life or the next, one of the two. He who winks maliciously causes grief, and a chattering fool comes to ruin. There you go again. That's for somebody in here, a chattering fool. They're coming up again. No, I'm just kidding. It just keeps coming back to us. That's just part of Proverbs because it does come back. There are many themes that you'll see time and again. This is one I got, you see that it speaks to the mouth of the righteous. The next verse is a fountain of life, but the violence overwhelms the mouth of the wicked. I think about our rap musicians of today. You think about them. They're not musicians, but they do have some rhythm. And but I think about them, and they kill each other. But what they glorify in their songs is killing each other, or killing, or murder and stuff. It's just glorified junk, violence coming out of their mouth. And you're going, because you got the West Coast guys, rap guys killing the East Coast, and the East Coast killing the West Coast. And it's like, the Bible speaks pretty clear to you here. It's the mouth of the righteous is a fountain of life, and I think that can be in the musical aspect. The violence overwhelms the mouth of the wicked. I don't think that you can glorify the wickedness, and I hate that, now this is a side trail because I got to thinking about Keanu Reeves, his John Wick movies, and they're for gun control in Hollywood. I'm going, they just don't match to me. Something's wrong here. When Hollywood glamorizes all the violence, but then they say, we don't need violence. And I'm going, but you're glamorizing it. It makes it look like you can come back in the next episode when this happens. And I'm just telling y'all, when I watch movies, they use more foul language these days, and you start trying to watch something, you're going, this is really bad. And you have to turn it off because they can't speak without foul language. And I don't know who's writing the scripts, but whoever it is, I wish they would get their language cleaned up so they quit putting it in the movies. Because I'm thinking they could have written the same script without the F-bomb in there 14 times in one sentence. Grammatically, it doesn't work, Yeah, see how many you can get in one. And so after about a couple, I was like, that's it, I'm done. I can't do this, Yeah, the movie wouldn't be near as long.
They always said if you bleeped them, it would just be one big long.
Yeah, it'd be, that's all you get. But I do think that we probably, when we start talking about the tongue and the words and things, I think it promotes into the next generation Because I can remember asking one of my kinfolks one time about a movie, and they said, "Oh, it's a good movie." I said, "What's the cussing like?" "Oh, it's not much." I remember sitting down in that movie going, "Dang, it's every other word." But if you get desensitized towards it, and that's all you watch, then it's not bad. It's not near as bad as this movie. And so we have to be careful in our own hearts not to get desensitized. But that's all I can hear. In the first 5 minutes of a movie, I'm going, I can't do this. So that's just enough. Then hatred stirs up dissension. That is, now, if you want to have a verse for America, hatred stirs up dissension. We are in a divided country in many ways. I don't, I was telling somebody today, we had a young man that came to know Christ. He was a black young man and was at college. We called him our firstborn, Lynn and I. And sweet guy, sweet as could be, just as innocent. But he came to know Jesus, and he was so grateful. He'd come over to our room and stayed till all hours of the night until we finally had to make him go home. And I was like, "All right, we're going to bed. You got to go home." But he loved us so much. And then the problem is he started reading these books on slave trade. And I remember going into the canteen area, the cafeteria, no, it was canteen area. He was sitting back in the corner. I hadn't spoken to him in a while. And I walked over and I said, "Bro, what's up?" And he started tearing up. He says, "Man, I'll confess to you, I've been reading these slave books, and I really hate you." I was like, he said, "I've gotten to where I hate white people." And I was like, "Dude, I've never owned a slave." I mean, I'm pretty dark. And I said, "I've never owned a slave, never been a part of that slave trade." And I said, you're reading history from somebody's spectacles that's causing hate in your heart." And I said, "That's not Christ-like." And he was a new believer, and he changed. He was able to put those books aside because they were producing hatred that produced dissension. He didn't want to be around white people. And I was like, "Dude, I didn't want you to be around because you're eating all my oatmeal cakes." He'd go in my sock drawer and find my oatmeal cakes. I had to hide them from him. And he'd find my oatmeal cakes come in. "I'm hungry." And he want to eat. And finally he came back to this relationship that wasn't a hatred, but it stirred up dissension in him. It's what we see in America today. Black Lives Matter is a hatred that stirs up dissension. White nationalist hatred stirs up dissension. Those things are not of God. I have been around some of the, growing up, most racially divisive white people you could ever imagine. I'd be the first to tell you that you're not going to hurt anybody of any color around me. Right now, you can look at whatever race you want. If you're walking righteous, you're not doing harm, I'm good with you. But, I'm looking at you going, if you're stirring up dissension through hatred, I got a problem with that. I don't care what color you are. White, black, Latino, it don't bother me a bit. I'll tell you, I'll call you out. Because it's just wrong. The Bible tells you that hatred does stir up dissension. But love covers a multitude of wrongs. You look at that in 1 Corinthians 13. But that's God's love in us, not just our own natural love, what we can muster up. That's having God transform us. It covers a multitude of wrongs. Wisdom is found on the lips of the discerning, but a rod is for the back of him who lacks judgment. In other words, you're going to get disciplined if you lack judgment. I was watching I think it was a wagon train. It comes over on Gunsport. We have all this, I just laugh. I've got high definition TV, high speed internet, and I watch Inspiration Channel. Which is in black and white, and you can get it on regular, antenna TV, whatever. But I was watching a wagon train the other night, and this one guy was a bad wagoneer guy that was taking over the wagon train after the first wagon train guy that died, and he whipped this guy for no reason that was a part of the other wagon train. He beat him just for his punishment. I was like, that's injustice. You can't do that for that. I was like, somebody's got to do something. And they did. They finally killed the guy. And No, they didn't kill him. The other guy whipped him pretty bad and he ran off. So that was good. So I thought, man, that's just not right. But the rod for the back is for him who lacks judgment. In other words, if you don't have judgment, you're going to give yourself over to discipline. Let's just say that jails are made for those who lack discernment. We have a punishment system for those who lack discernment and judgment. Wise men store up knowledge, but the mouth of a fool invites ruin. There's another one in, I think, Proverbs 18. It says, the mouth of a fool invites a beating. I love that one. Because I'm like, God, that gives you permission to do a lot of things, doesn't it? Your mouth is going to invite a beating. But a wise man will store up knowledge. The wealth of the rich is their fortified city, but poverty is the ruin of the poor. Poverty is a spirit. You can be rich and still be in poverty. You can be poor and be rich. But poverty is a spirit that gets on people. It can last for generations. Somebody's got to break out of it. And it takes, and I'm not talking about a college education, it helps, but it takes somebody recognizing, listen, tired of being this way. If you were to look at a family generational trees and you can see some things just got to break differently. My boys never saw my dad's backyard, but there are times I walk through my backyard, which is not very, the part that is not fenced in for the dogs is not very large. And I go, I'm looking more like my dad every day. They got stuff. We had, at one point, we probably had 1,000 buckets, sheetrock buckets. You know, once you empty them, you stack them up, lay them in the backyard.
Yeah, why?
You never know when you might need a 5-gallon bucket. You know, they sell them for what? At Home Depot for $5?
Like 90 of them. What are you gonna
No, we had 1,000 or more because we would empty, and that's what sheetrock mud came in. And so we have 1,000 of them back there, and we had to use them like to mix up when we sprayed ceilings. We had to have some for that. But for whatever reason, my dad hoarded buckets. I have no idea why. And then we had a couple of cars back there. When you cut the grass, you could find them. You know, it was just the way we lived, and that's a part of it. Now I've got a couple of cars in the yard, and I've got kitty litter buckets. I don't know why I'm keeping those, but I get all my kitty litter in buckets now, and they come out in handy because you can wash cars with them and all kinds of stuff. But if you need a bucket, I got about 4 or 5 of them, and come to me. You don't have to go to Home Depot and buy a $5 bucket. I got you a yellow bucket, pretty handy. And what? Yeah, I got lids with them too, so they're good. Why I don't know is just part of growing up. So I'm thinking there's just something. And the reason I started this, we learn by traits and different things. There are things, I don't know if you do things like your dad did, and you look at it and you go, that was just like him. So I do. I see you used to. Do y'all do that? You know, you got your buckets? Okay. Screw buckets. Oh, yeah. I got those. My dad would go around job. Boys, y'all dropped too many screws. He'd put them in just a peanut jar bucket or something that was in peanuts, and he'd put top on it. Now, when my dad was killed in his car or truck wreck, one of the things I got out of his truck was these peanut jars of just screws, random screws. They didn't even match anything, just random. I've used them. I have gone there and I was like, I need one of them. Look at that. I got this. I didn't have to go to the store and get it. You know, I got it. But that's a part of what you grew up with. And that generation, my dad's generation, he was on the cusp of that World War II thing, born right there in those era in 34. And so he grew up with parents that didn't throw things away. You just did not throw things away. That's just part of it. So, but poverty is something that I believe, and it takes somebody to look at it and go, I'm going to break out of this. I think it's that way in the white community. I think it's that way in the black community. I think you can grow up with a mindset, and it's kind of like a young man, because he had a hunting camp, and he had a young black boy came up to him when he built his cabin down there, and he came up to him and says, Mister, how you going to get your check? He said, what? He said, how you going to get your check? And he's like, what do you mean? He says, You've got to have a mailbox out here to get your government check. I mean, that was what he grew up with. He'd go to get his check. And he was young. And he's like, son, I'm not going to live here, so I don't need a mailbox. So it was just a different concept to him. We grow up with this is the way it ought to be. We're perpetuating, not just in the black community, but in the white community, poverty. Because the government becomes daddy and the provider. And I'm just saying, I don't mean to offend anybody. It can help you get up. There's nothing wrong with that. But it will never get you to riches. Never will. It keeps you trapped in a setting, and you'll never be able to break out. And most everybody, I don't know if you watched that. What was that Will Smith movie where he was a man that had his son? What was it? Yeah, Pursuit of Happiness. True story. About a guy that he did it. I mean, it broke my heart to watch that. But he's a guy that dug out from the bottom, and he raised up. And just a whole, and I love those stories. Because you look at it and you go, here's a guy that says, I don't have to be this way. You know, if you wait, and that's not for y'all, everybody in here is hardworking. But if you wait for somebody to provide something for you, you're going to be waiting till Jesus comes. Unless you're a Kennedy or a Biden and you get provided for. Maybe in a Trump. But you find yourself, you wait for somebody to provide something for you. The government's never going to get you wealthy. They'll keep you dependent. So I just say beware of that. It can help you up at a certain point, but there's got to be a plan to get above that, to rise above that. There's got to be a plan to get out of that. Education is one of those ways that can break you free. Not just one of the things they're doing now, and I know I'm on a rabbit trail, one of those things they're doing now is vocational schools are one of the best things that young people can do is vocational school. Even the military, you can learn trades in the military that you would never learn, and they'll pay you. Now, you got to go shoot people to do that, but they'll pay you. You know, that's just a part of it. That's just, you get trained to be an army. Do what? Not necessarily. There are different places you can be, and you find yourself, but there are ways that you can do this. I talk to many young men out here, and some of them have told me, you know, I'm going to look at the military because, you know, I can't afford to go to college, but I can go spend a couple years and I can get my military experience can help get college paid for. They've got a plan, and I applaud them on that. I say, good. That'll be a good thing for you. Give you some discipline in your life and all that. Anyway, I stayed too long on that one. The wages of righteous bring them life, but the income of the wicked bring them punishment. True. I won't even go further on that. Anybody got any thoughts?
They're all true.
They are true. All of them are true. That's right. Thank you, Debbie. I know you're scribing, haven't wrote that one down.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Because you said it awful slow and just real quick. He who heeds discipline shows the way of life. Whoever ignores correction leads others astray. How many of y'all remember in your days in elementary school or junior high school, those that, I didn't like the safety patrol because I never was one. They got to wear the cool badge and the striped shirt. And then we had, now to let you know, at the Rocky Ridge Elementary School, we had what was these cane poles. You had cut down a cane pole, and then they put a red flag on it. And that's what the safety patrols, they go marching out every day, and they go to the crosswalk down there at Acton. It was right there at Rocky Ridge School, old Rocky Ridge Road, and went on out that way. And they got to put those cane poles down and let the kids walk across the street to go. People actually lived around school at that time.
That's a dangerous road.
Not that time. But nowadays, you wouldn't have any kids sitting out there on that road. But in those days, the safety patrol got to put their badges on and do all that. I never got to be a safety patrol. I don't know why, but I just never did. Probably because I spent too much time. Yeah. I could have done a lot of things with that stick. That's right, squirrel. There goes another. But the safety patrol guys always irritated me because they'd turn you in for stuff, and I didn't like that. And I spent enough time in the office that I didn't need. I was so busy in the 6th grade in the office that they'd look at and say, "Oh, it's you again. I need you to run an errand." And they sent me down there to be disciplined. They got tired of whipping me. You know, I was like, man, that was pretty bad. Ms. Vines, honestly, one day I went down there because I'd shut Teresa Calandria in a closet. and turned the light out. And the teacher caught me. And then she looked at me and said, Donny, go to the office. So I went down there, and they said, what are you doing here? And I said, well, I shut Teresa Cringer in the office, in the closet, and teacher Miss Hill sent me down here. I said, well, sit down there. And the next thing you know, I said, hey, Donny, take this down there and run this there and down here and run this down. They just forgot all about discipline, or else they were just tired of discipline. I mean, that's just part of it. But the pencil sharpener was in the closet, okay? To my defense. She said, where's the pencil sharpener? I said, it's in the closet. And the switch was on the outside of the closet. So I'm just standing at the door. And I heard her, you could hear her in there, bless her heart, because I turned the light out. And it was just a book closet. Walk in. You could hear her behind the door going, whoa, 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 whoa. And here comes Miss Hill walking in. Donny, who's in there? Teresa, she got stuck. Anyway, just before I got saved going to 7th grade. You say probably needed to. Yeah. All right, enough of that. I did heed discipline as they beat me, and the correction. The safety patrol people always did it right. I just had to be beat into it. He who conceals his hatred has lying lips, and whoever spreads slander is a fool. That does not mean if you hate somebody, you just tell them you hate them. It does. I mean, you got to, but you don't have to go, I hate you, but you don't, there's a way you go around. You conceals hatred. You can tell people you're disappointed, you don't agree, but you don't have to hate. I mean, I don't agree with people in our denomination, and they don't like talking to me, but I don't hate them. You know, I just don't like their ways. And I tell them that. I was like, I don't like it. So I don't conceal my hatred. I'm good with that one. So I don't really have hatred, but I don't conceal my dissension either. Whoever spreads slander is a fool. That's true. It's one of those things, and it's one of those deadly sins of gossip and all the words. It's dangerous. It'll come back to bite you. Have you ever known somebody that's a gossip and they're always afraid of what somebody's saying about them? I mean, it's a curse, man. It really is. You know, anytime somebody's a gossip and somebody's talking in a room and they come into a room, they thinking they're talking about them. Part of the curse of being a gossip. A slander, same thing. If you go into a room and somebody's, they're talking about me? No, it's not really about you. But you think it is because that's all they do is spread it. Anyway, I'm going too long. The tongue of the righteous is choice silver, but the heart of the wicked is of little value. True. The lips of the righteous nourish many, but the fools die for lack of judgment. The blessing of the Lord brings wealth, and he has no trouble to it. That's a good thing. That's why I said that about the lottery a few weeks back. If it's a blessing and you're supposed to get the lottery, it's not going to have the pain that comes with it. Did they ever reveal who won the $1 billion or whatever it was prize lately?
Oh, yeah.
Did it come out?
Uh-huh.
Who was it? Wasn't you?
He's in the middle of divorce with this lady, and he's never had a job, and he was going to buy a Raptor and then retire, and they're like, but you never had a job. How do you retire? He always followed his ex-wife around, and they were in the middle of getting divorced. And since they're in the middle of getting divorced, she gets none of it.
Wow. She'll get half of it. Wow. Play the lotto until you get that. Now, most of the time, the lottery ruins most people's lives. It does. I mean, that's a dump truck. It's like Mike Tyson when he hit it big. They said that he spent money that he didn't. I mean, he doesn't have hardly anything left today because he had an entourage of friends, and they just would spend his money up, and he didn't care. He didn't handle it. And so it created issues, and it can. And that's why it's important to have somebody that's frugal around you if you hit the lottery. Sherilyn will volunteer for that. She can take care of you on that. David Linsky, don't let him know. Don't let David do it. You will never see that money. You will never see it. We got to invest that. We got to put it away. Do what?
Won't be buying a Raptor.
You won't buy a Raptor. Yeah, David will be looking at it. You don't need to buy it. But David, I got $4 billion.
And you need to invest $399.
Yeah, that's right. Got to invest it. David would be right on that, but he'll take the pleasure out of it, that's for sure. Said, a fool finds pleasure in evil conduct, but a man of understanding delights in wisdom. That's true. All these are true. What the wicked dreads will overtake him. What the righteous desires to be granted. Now listen to that one. What the wicked dreads will overtake him. Be careful with your fears. Deal with them. What we fear, don't do that. I mean, people, they get into that cycle of dread or fear, and then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. It can. You have to be careful with that. As I've known people that dread something, and they'll tell you, you know, I don't, and it can become that self-fulfilling prophecy. And you just have to be, that's why it's important you take hold of those fears and you make them submit to the name of Jesus. You got to expose them because it can become that. Not every time, but it can. Just be careful. It said, when the storm is swept away, when the storms have swept by, the wicked are gone, but the righteous stand firm forever. You go to Matthew 7th chapter, you see about the building on a firm foundation and not on the sand. As vinegar to the teeth and smoke to the eyes, so is a sluggard to those who send him. That's pretty wicked, isn't it? Y'all brush your teeth with vinegar? I don't think so. Anyway, the fear of the Lord adds length to life, true. But the years of the wicked are cut short. So that kind of shoots Billy Joel's theology in the ground. Only the good die young? Yeah, that just goes against his theology, doesn't it? But if it is true, if he is a theologian, that gives you a reason why Sherilyn's still here.
I'll be here long.
Methuselah, Sherilyn. If only the good die young, that's why we're all still here. Anyway, that's not a true statement. It's not even theology, no 101, because it talks here. It's talking about giving long life to even those. But we can cut our lives short through our wickedness. He said, the prospect of the righteous is joy, but the hopes of the wicked come to nothing. The way of the Lord is a refuge to the righteous, but it is ruin to those who do evil. True. The righteous will never be uprooted, but the wicked will not remain in the land. I cry out for that in this political scene right now. Not that I want anybody to die. I would just love for some things to get exposed, righteous. And, I get so tired of, and I'll say her name, I get so tired of the Nancy Pelosi. I just, when she's moving her lips, she's either lying or just doing something. And you're kind of going, Nancy, what is wrong with you? And anyway, the righteous will never be uprooted, the wicked will not remain in the land. It says, the mouth of the righteous brings forth wisdom, but a perverse tongue will be cut out. Now, that's pretty tough. They used to do that in all the old Westerns. They'd cut their tongue out, and it's just not good. The lips of the righteous know what is fitting, but the mouth of the wicked only what is perverse. Again, I've been around some guys in my lifetime that could not put a sentence together, and it would be a short sentence. See cat run, and there'd be 5 cuss words in there. You could have just said see cat run. That's it. If they had to put 5 cuss words and expletives in it, you're like, wait a minute. I do know this, that Debbie will give account for every word. I don't know how, but they will. We all will. And whatever in this life, it says that part of our choice is to walk righteous, upright before God. To do so and walk in that righteous, upright before God, it says it will be long life. And you say, well, what about this person? They were good people and they died. I don't know. All I know is what Scripture says. I cannot give an account for every life. Why some lives are cut short, I don't know. I don't know. I wish I did, and I've asked a few times. I have asked. I asked one time, I remember the Lord told me, he said, he just didn't have faith. And it wasn't a condemnation on this person. It's just wasn't in his wheelhouse to have faith. This was many, many years ago. Nothing computed in his mind that God still healed today. Nothing. So when it came his time to believe, there's no way he could believe. It just wasn't in his wheelhouse. And so I'm like, okay, that gave me some answer. Whether I was right or wrong, whether I heard from God or not, I don't know, but it gave me some comfort because I was really struggling over it. And because he's a righteous man. And so as I look at all this, in Proverbs, there's so much wealth of wisdom. And so when you read it, read your scripture and go, that's true. That's true. Let it sink in.
Like this one's not.
Yeah, I know.
There's like the
That's true.
true false.
Well, it's kind of like it's kind of like when you listen to a preacher say, I'm going to tell you the truth here. Well, what did you just tell me? What about what you just said? Let me tell you the truth on this. Like,
It's like Biden, he's always like, I'm not lying, and you're like, well, were you lying before?
I know. I'm not lying. Wait, who?
It's like Jesus though saying, truly I tell you.
Yeah, truly I say, this is truth. And so that's what I mean by that. Not that the rest of it is not true, but this is true. Just let it sink in. Make a statement.
Do you ever read one and go,
I don't.
feel about that?
Yeah,
See, it may be true, but you may not be
I know.
to it in your heart, and that's
that is true. That's true. There are times you read scripture and you go, I was looking at a book in the office today and I was like, things I wish Jesus hadn't said. You know, because there are times he speaks some pretty harsh stuff. Anyway, we'll pray. Thank the Lord for another night, and Elizabeth cooking chicken pot pie. It was good. He loved it. He said, over eating voices, good stuff. So, well, God bless you guys. Father, we thank you for just blessing us. Your word is a blessing. And I just ask you, Father, that we can speak your word, that it be spoken in our life, and we'll say, truly, truly, this is right. And I just thank you for that, Lord. And just let your word permeate our hearts, our soul, our spirit, and transform our lives. In Jesus' name, amen. God bless you from Facebook world.